Welcome into another edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview, presented by Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James. I'm Neil McCready, joined as always by MPW digital football expert Pete DeWeese, getting you ready for the Egg Bowl. It's Mississippi State at Ole Miss, Friday, 2:30 on ABC, a game that may or may not have college football playoff implications. It certainly doesn't have as many as we were expecting that it would have going into this week. Speaking of this week, normally when Pete does this show, he's in Mississippi. He's at is it your in-laws or your house?
Family.
Okay, family. This week he's not, and it's not because the family disowned him or there's no family feud. Nope. The Fighting DeWeeses have advanced to the third round. It's always in high school. If you're practicing on Thanksgiving Day, things went really well, and you guys are having a great season. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited. In theory, we've been an underdog the past 2 weeks, and we've come out on top. And we get to face off with a team that's been number one in 4A pretty much all season long, and we're gonna try to go in there and do what we do. So,
y'all scored a lot of points last week. I saw that.
We've been a pretty effective offense. Our quarterback has led 4A in passing with over 3,000 yards. We've got 2,000-yard receivers. Our starting tailback, he'll go over 1,000 yards on Friday night. So it's been a lot of fun with a great group of kids. In Georgia football, we see a lot of great players, and so watching our kids compete against those players is always fun.
Yeah, that is fun. All right, we're going to talk about what happened in Gainesville, what might happen in Oxford on Friday. But first, I want to tell you we've been brought to you all season long by our friends at Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James. It's a full-service investment team based in Jackson, providing financial planning and investment management to clients across the state and surrounding areas. Ryan Geary and his partners are a local team that utilize the strength and resources of a national firm to bring their clients an impeccable level of service. This includes access to investment strategies and portfolio managers not available to all investors. If you're interested in a no-obligation consultation or you just want to be added to their monthly market update email list, reach out to financial advisor Ryan Geary with Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James at 601-368-2215 or ryan.geary@raymondjames.com. Raymond James and Associates Incorporated, member New York Stock Exchange, SIPC. All right, Pete, I don't think we can just jump into Mississippi State without at least talking about what happened on Saturday in Gainesville. Ole Miss loses to Florida 24-17. It was a potentially likely devastating loss for Ole Miss's college football playoff hopes. We're taping this on Tuesday afternoon. The show with the ranking shows in a few hours. Most people believe Ole Miss is going to be 13th in that when it comes out. They need to get to 11th and probably 10th to get in, so they have to have help. It's out of their control. Mutilating Mississippi State's not going to do much for them because State's 2-9, 0-7 in the league. So they just have to hope that they get help outside. So if they get it, awesome. If they don't, we're going to be talking about this Florida game for a long time. What happened?
There's a lot of things, and I just got on the message board on Rebel Grove for the first time since the game. And somebody had tagged me in a post, and they were asking about coverage. It was somebody that had watched the preview last week, and they had questions. And yeah, Florida mixed up the coverage, but there's not high school teams at any decent level of high school that doesn't mix up coverages. And so, yes, did Florida mix up some coverages and maybe get out of their base bracket a little bit more? Yeah, they did. And for the most part, Jackson Dart handled it extremely well. I mean, it's frustrating. Like, I'm an Ole Miss fan. I'm an Ole Miss alum. Like, I wanted Ole Miss to win the game. I was not happy when Ole Miss didn't win that game. Probably more than anything after that game was getting on social media and seeing people throwing Dart under the bus. And I just, it blows my mind. I mean, listen, down the stretch, did the kid make mistakes at the end of the game? Absolutely. Situation, emotion, frustration. I think there are a lot of things at play. The reality is, for majority of that football game, he was surgical. Threw some great balls, made some great reads in coverage, some great reads in the RPO game, and Florida was really doing a lot to try and get with his eyes. And listen, it is hard to be an elite quarterback unless you're playing for Mike Leach. God rest his soul. Unless you're playing for Mike Leach or somebody from that tree, it is hard to be an elite quarterback without some semblance of a run game. And even when things were blocked up well the other day, there was not many signs of an effective run game for Ole Miss, and there hasn't been for a lot this season. And one thing that we did talk about last week on the show is there's still talent on that Florida roster. The defensive line in particular, and the interior of the defensive line. And I think if you go back and you watch a lot of the run plan from Saturday, they knew that it had to hit off tackle. It wasn't going to be an A gap. So, I it's great watching Pagese carry the ball and rumble for first downs, but there's limit to what you can do with him there. And not necessarily because of his ability, but how much time do you have to practice it? And there's just so many different variables. And we've seen earlier in the season when they tried to shift and do some different things, and I think had some motion penalties and some stuff like that. But even when you go back and you watch those and you watch the first one, the ball doesn't hit in B gap. It doesn't hit in A gap. It hits a little more outside because they knew where the meat of that defense was, and they were trying to stay away from it. And when Pagese got stopped in those short yardage situations on Saturday, it's because he was trying to hit it outside. Whether it's because that's where he believed the space was, or whether it's because they talked about in their preparation and in the game plan of it's not going to be in here, it's going to be out there. I think when you factor in the inability, particularly down the stretch in that game, to be effective in the run game, it makes life that much more difficult on any quarterback, Jackson Dart included. The flip side of it is I spent a ton of time last week, and this is not me trying to sound smart. I spent a ton of time last week talking about Lagway and kind of what he has shown the ability to do. He did some damn things Saturday that I'm not going to tell you I saw coming, at least not this week, but he did some things on Saturday that show you why he was the number one high school player in the country last year.
I always say this. I've told you this, and you talk about, you see these elite players and compete against them or coach them in Georgia that have these multiple offers. It doesn't mean that they're finished products, but
Far from it.
But it means that everybody sees the tools, right? I mean, so when a kid like Lagway, who has offers from literally everyone, and anyone who didn't offer him, it was because they knew they weren't going to get him. And had the kid picked up the phone and called that school, he would have had an offer before he finished the sentence.
Yep.
Those kinds of kids, the tools are always there to be great, to be elite. And I think he oozes it too. Like, I thought that was one of the cool things about Saturday was not cool, but watching the game and you enjoy football and you're watching these two quarterbacks that have a lot of charisma, a lot of leadership, guys play for them. And, I mean, I don't mean this to sound flippant, but Florida practices too. And it's pretty obvious that they believe in that kid and that they think he has a really bright future. And you see why they tried to sort of kind of baby him and protect him a little bit, because they don't want to do anything that messes up his growth, because they think once we get him to a certain place, we can go a launching pad, we can take off. And man, I kind of think they've already launched.
Listen, I saw a video on social media after the game on Saturday, and I don't recall if it was from pregame or halftime, but it was the Florida coming out of their tunnel, and it was Lagway standing in the middle facing the rest of the team, high-fiving everybody as they're coming out. A freshman that has not started every game, that was not handed the keys and anointed from the jump. One of our freshman quarterbacks, we were yesterday morning, he had talked a little noise last week, and he's a Florida fan. His family, they're all Florida people. I think his dad may have gone there. And we got meetings yesterday morning before practice, and I looked at him and I said, congrats on the win. I said, go back and I want you to just watch the way number 2 carries himself. Watch the kid never got rattled. He was never shaken. The rush got to him. He protected the football, and he's a big physical imposing body. Like he has gifts and the ability to do things that the average human being absolutely cannot do. And he showed some of those things off. But to me, and it's what I told our kid, because again, this is a little ninth grader that is far from physically looking anything like DJ Lagway. I said what he did physically was mad impressive. I said, but the early throw where he gets hit and he steps up and the damn guy's still got him and he looks out there and he finds the guy in the flat. I said, the physical part we can't replicate. I said, but the mental part, for him to know where that ball needed to go in the midst of all that chaos, that's why everybody knows and thinks the kid is going to be special. And Ole Miss fans love to talk about the "We Are Ole Miss" and talk about, oh God, here comes somebody's backup quarterback. Put him on a Heisman watch list for the next season. And like I know that's kind of been a thing in the past. And this wasn't some nobody that came out of nowhere. This was a kid on a stage executing and playing well. And I think they had a good scheme. Russ Callaway, the offensive coordinator for Florida, I know him a little bit, not very well, but I'm actually close with his college roommate. Like, I'm one of his buddies that he knows and has gone back with forever. And I just sent him a text, and the game wasn't even over. I said, man, Russ is calling a great one. Like, Florida had a really good plan, not only to protect the kid, but to also find numbers in the run game. They had a really good plan to be aggressive when they needed to be aggressive. And lack of execution by Ole Miss, because call a spade. You make field goals, you avoid turnovers, and you don't drop the football when balls are catchable. And the game likely, not definitely, but likely looks completely different.
Oh, I think, and if you take a couple of drops away, make the kick. If you make the kick, maybe you try some more kicks. Maybe you do it. I mean, Ole Miss was the better team, and it showed up statistically that Ole Miss was the better team, but they didn't execute in the red zone. They had some key drops. You had the picks late. You had the muffed punt that I thought was huge.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I thought it was a monumental
absolutely
momentum swing. And then you have a different game, but it doesn't work like that. And then you had the emotional part, the mental part, which was one team was just kind of out there playing a football game.
One team had nothing to lose.
And they just played football. Mm-hmm. And the other team had a lot to lose. And as the game got shorter and shorter, you could feel it.
We talked about it last week. We talked a little bit about the Florida LSU game and said, if you look at the box score and you take the actual scoreboard away and you just look at the stats and you show it to 10 people and say who won this game, most of them are going to tell you LSU won the football game.
Yeah.
This game's not much different than that. It was very reminiscent. There was a point during the game where I thought to myself, this is a lot like watching that LSU game. Chalk it up to environment. I do think, and the broadcaster said it during the game, the sun overhead in that stadium, it can be a thing. And that's, fans hate day games because they want to tailgate all day and get their party on and then go have a good time. I'm not, particularly this late in the season, you don't expect the weather to be what it was on Saturday, right?
Right.
But when you're clear skies and sun, that's why I hate day games, because it can be hard to track the football at times. It can be hard to, especially in the muffed punt situation and some of those things. So, yeah, I mean, listen, ultimately, I think you could line up and you could play that game multiple times, and I think that Ole Miss probably has the edge in almost every one of those games. I still stand by what we talked about last week, that if Ole Miss goes in and executes and protects the football, like we said, Ole Miss is going to win the football game. And that likely to have happened in that scenario, but bottom line was execution. Too many drops, the missed kick, the muffed punt. And it is hard to win football games in this conference against any team when that's the way the dice, kind of rolls.
So obviously Ole Miss needs help, but first they have to beat Mississippi State. A loss to Mississippi State would be, wow, that'd be something. Oh, the Rebels a 25.5-point favorite. I know there's not a hell of a great segue here, but The Bulldogs 2-9, looking for their first SEC win. Jeff Lebby coming back to Ole Miss. Jeff talked about when he got the job, this was going to be a fun game. They were excited about it. Lane kind of turned that around on Monday and said, I guess we're excited about it too. So, I guess show us what you can with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, so the concern, if it exists, there's two concerns if it exists for an Ole Miss fan. One is motivation, right? And the other is the quarterback for Mississippi State. Quite honestly, if Ole Miss and I've said it before, and so has every other coach in the world since some coach first coined the phrase, you can't let a team beat you twice, right? And with the stakes quite possibly being most likely being drastically different than they were going into last week, and what you hoped they would be going into this game. You hope that Ole Miss shows up a motivated football team. This day and age, things being what they are, and we've seen people opt out of bowl games, and we've seen people do different things. I can't promise you that from a motivation standpoint, and I'm not predicting that they will show up not being motivated or without players being all the way in. But that's a real thing in this conversation, I do think, again, Ole Miss, I expect them to show up. I expect them to play hard. I expect them to roll everybody out there that they can roll out there. I'm sure that, when the coaching staff when that plane landed on Saturday night, they didn't just lay around all day Sunday feeling sorry for themselves. They've had people working on this game just like they do every week, working ahead. And when they rolled into the staff room and they reviewed the Florida film and talked about things and started prepping for this one, it wasn't a pity party the whole time. It was, we have to go win this football game. And I'm sure that when the players rolled in for the first time, whether that be Sunday night or Monday morning to prepare, that I'm sure they were reminded of the expectation. And I would assume and hope that the leadership in the locker room is kind of upholding that expectation. There's obviously frustration in the fan base, but obviously the holiday weekend always makes it a little bit different anyway, but there's no excuse not to show up and try to give Ole Miss some version of a home field advantage in this game, and hope that any motivation, any hangover from last week can kind of be worn down by the moment and the excitement of the game. Outside of that, statistically, Florida far from the top of the defense or the SEC defensively. I mean, they're near the bottom defensively going into last week. Mississippi State is at the bottom defensively, in the SEC. They're giving up almost 35 points a game. The flip side of that is Ole Miss is still leading the SEC in scoring at almost 39 points a game. So Ole Miss is going to anticipate coming in with the ability to move the football, plain and simple. Mississippi State has not been great against the run. They really play almost two different styles of defense. I watched multiple games and tried to look at some different things. There are times where they play, it's the 3-2-6 that Ole Miss fans both loathed and loved, depending on how the game went, right? Yeah. But they'll play with the 3 down linemen, and they'll play with the 3 safeties, and they'll give some different looks. But they'll also spend a decent amount of time in a 4-man front. It's going to be a lot more similar schematically to what Ole Miss is now versus what they were. From an offensive standpoint, you attack what they put on the field. It's personnel based. They're not leaving the same bodies on the field to try to execute 2 different schemes. And I think if you see them go to a 3 safety look, I think you see Ole Miss try to run the football and be effective there. They go to a 4 down look, get a little bit lighter in the back end. I think you have plenty of opportunity for Ole Miss to do what they want to do and push the ball down the field. I think offensively, if they roll in there healthy, Ole Miss should be fine. They like I said, Mississippi State not great. Defensively, and just kind of looking at the numbers. I mean, they're giving up 250 yards a game passing. They're giving up 215 yards a game rushing, but we've yet to see Ole Miss really break out in the run game this year. So I don't necessarily expect to see that on Saturday, right?
As someone who didn't have the luxury of not logging into rebelgrove.com over the last few days, I can tell you that the lack of a running game has been somewhat
it's been a conversation. I've seen some tweets, I've seen some videos, but that, to me, that's one of the interesting things, right? You can't play one dimensional. You can't play one dimensional. Whether they were playing Georgia, Oklahoma, whoever, Ole Miss has tried to run the football, and I do think there's potentially more success on the table this week. But to expect Ole Miss to just come out and dominate in the run game you haven't seen signs of that this year. What you don't want to do, like I said, is become one dimensional. And so I think you'll see Ole Miss try to achieve some balance there. And then, the question is, can Mississippi State do enough offensively to make it a shootout? Ole Miss would love to build the lead and just let their pass rush work. But that's what I kind of want to focus on. I want to talk about that Jeff Lebby offense. I want to talk about the way that he tries to attack. And there are certainly some things that are going to look very familiar to Ole Miss fans from his time here in Oxford. But there are some things that Kiffin never bought wholeheartedly into that are a big part of that system. That you see it in Starkville now, you see it in Knoxville, and a few other places around the country. So we're going to kind of look at some of those elements. We're going to talk about the quarterback. He is a good young player. He is a lot different player than DJ Lagway and what Ole Miss saw last week from a physical standpoint, but he is a talented young player. One of the games I was kind of curious to watch, and I looked at a couple, but I really wanted to watch the Tennessee game versus Mississippi State. And, part of the reason is there is an existing relationship between Heupel and between Mississippi State staff. And so I wanted to see, with Lebby and Heupel having some understanding of each other, having understanding of the systems, how do they defend each other. So I went back and to try and see some things. And so I pulled some things from throughout the course of the game I thought we'd look at real quickly. One thing with Mississippi State is they are not great at the line of scrimmage. You can get rush on the quarterback. The quarterback does a nice job getting the ball out of his hands quickly when he can. The system is quarterback friendly when the quarterback really understands what's going on. But they also do a nice job of trying to give him some different presentations and trying to get him out of the pocket, trying to use him in different ways and make it look different for the defense. And with Ole Miss's ability to rush the passer, I do think you're going to see them try to get him. They're going to use play action, and I think they're also going to try to get him out of the pocket on Saturday to try and affect the rush, to try to slow it down some and hopefully get him a chance to get out and be clean. So that's actually what you're going to see right here. And it's a concept we've talked about a decent amount before, but it's what people are calling a dash concept. And they'll window dress it with motion. They'll do it different ways. LSU does it a ton, so Ole Miss has certainly seen it this year against multiple opponents. But essentially the offensive line is going to work away, or they're even going to cut opposite. The tight end is going to be responsible for helping seal the edge. And typically in a bootleg concept, the running back would be to the side you're going to boot to, and they're going to fake it to him, and the quarterback is going to come out of the mesh and work into his boot path. Instead of faking to the running back, the quarterback is going to flash his eyes opposite of where he wants to go to try and slow the linebackers, which is really all you're trying to do on the bootleg, is influence eyes. And the running back is going to become the flat player now. And the quarterback is going to flash his eyes opposite, and then he's going to boot out and get depth onto the perimeter. The way Ole Miss likes to play man-to-man on the outside, attacking it with comeback routes like they do right here, can be very effective against a man-to-man scheme. So you can see they're going to use motion here, trying to get the rotation. They use the play fake action there with the motion guy. You see the tight end is helping set the edge. Running back comes across in the flat. So they're able to get the quarterback out, keep him, his jersey clean, to start the game. You're making the defense go sideline to sideline. It's a good way to try and slow down and eliminate or alleviate from a really talented pass rush right here. Tennessee does a nice job of kind of pressing that outside. He's not able to plant his feet and throw the comeback route, so he takes the check down, and Tennessee defends it very well. Okay, the very next play, they get into what is essentially the kind of traditional base look in this Jeff Lebby, Art Briles system. Okay, they like to use max splits. So in that system, they are going to split the field into dividers. They talk about the sidewalk, which is literally basically from halfway outside the numbers to the sidelines. They talk about the alley, which is from there to halfway between the hash and the numbers. And then they have this kind of walkway, this middle right here. Okay. They want to get as many guys in the alley or on the sidewalk as possible. They want to really stress and stretch the defense. And so for the play caller and for the quarterback, it simply becomes a numbers game. And we spend so much time on here talking about football math and how it plays out. You can see on this clip, Mississippi State has 5 offensive linemen, 1 running back, and there are 6 defenders in the box. And if it's going to stay like that, if Tennessee is going to maintain that principle, Mississippi State is outnumbered in the run game. They don't love to use the quarterback as a runner, even though he is athletic. Okay, so this is going to become a pass, not a run in their RPO system, unless the math changes and somebody were to drop out. With the max splits, again, you're making the defense declare. To the boundary, it's 2/2, and unless the math changes to the field, you have 3/2. So the quarterback knows pre-snap. Can't run the ball, we're outnumbered. If I'm going to work an RPO or if I'm working basic passing game, I probably need to work the boundary because now the math is in my favor. Okay. What Tennessee tried to do was give them a picture and change the picture late a lot in this game. When they were effective in the run game, it was because the quarterback got it right, guessed when the box count was going to be down or was able to identify when it was going to be down, and Mississippi State was able to find numbers in the run game. He does a nice job when given time. So you can see here, they are blocking an inside zone right here. The quarterback sees 6-man box. He turns his head, and now they're going to bring this linebacker out of the box, and so they're going to try to build 3/2 to this boundary. So the quarterback has pulled the ball, okay? He realizes now that oh crap, here's my eyes, I'm 3/2, but because of the safety rotation, they're trying to spin him down, get him deep, and they have left this huge void it's created by the spacing. When you take these receivers and you put everybody out at the numbers and the defense doesn't want to put anybody in the middle of the field, he knows when he comes out of this now, there's the middle of the field, there I can attack it, and you can see he just misses this throw. I mean, this is second play of the game offensively for them. Absolutely could have turned into a home run play, and he and the wide receiver just on the wrong page. You know, if you're Ole Miss, the goal is disguise the numbers, don't give him an easy read, but you also have to be, you've got to protect the middle of the field against this offense because they are going to find ways to attack it if you don't. Moving on just a little bit more. So now they're going to add a tight end to the box. They're going to add the tight end, gives them a 6th guy in the run box. So if it's a run play, they can account for 6 unless the coverage changes and presents a 7th defender. If they want play action now, again, okay, he is going to work the math. I've got 2/2 right now. I've got 1/1, and I have 2 safeties that are trying to disguise. If this guy works off the hash, then the numbers tell me work to the field as a quarterback. If he were to rotate to the middle, then I'm going to work the single side. Again, the max splits stress the defense. It forces you to make a decision. The other thing that happens is you'll notice these receivers to the top of the screen, they're very close together. Ole Miss likes to play a lot of man-to-man principles. That changes when these guys get close together. them being close, they have so many opportunities now to stack behind each other, to separate different ways, to switch releases and do all these different things. And so by aligning so close together and being way the hell out there away from the formation, you have the ability to kind of get guys on an island, but also disrupt man-to-man coverage. Okay. So here at Mississippi State, they're going to go play action with a 7-man protection. All right. So quarterback here, he's going to end the fake. He's coming out of it right now. Okay. Probably should have worked to the field right away. He kind of gets lost in the coverage and works his eyes to the boundary. So what they're working to the field is they're working the deep choice concept. So one receiver is going to have this occupy route. He's going to run this dig. He's there if something happens in the coverage and it just opens up. The outside receiver has a choice. He is going to push vertical, and at 10 yards, he's going to make a decision. He can either stay vertical, he can run a post, or he can stop his route and come back down his stem, and the quarterback and the receiver have to be on the same page. And it's all predicated on the post-snap reaction of the defense. If this corner were to squat and I can get on top of him, I'm going to stay on top and I'm going to run. If he bails and he is inside leverage on me, I'm going to stick my foot in the ground and come back down the ladder. And if the corner bails and he is outside and over the top, then now I can work my post stem. And the quarterback is going to try to see the same space and evaluate it. They've got the same route down here to the boundary. So if you watch the bottom of the screen, as the receiver releases, he's got 7 yards basically to make a decision. And at 8 yards, he wants to know what he's doing. So he's going to read that corner, and the corner is now head up to outside, and he is off. If that corner were any tighter, the receiver would have stayed vertical and outside. If that corner were inside, he might have come back down outside. But because he feels like the guy is on his outside hip or head up, he is going to cross face, and he is going to bend that route, and it almost looks like a dig. Okay. Quarterback doesn't like it. He doesn't see it. So he does a nice job here, finds his check down, and the kid just drops it. Ball is a little bit low. But it's all about their ability offensively, to stretch space both vertically and horizontally to try and create the seams in the defense. Now, you can see they hold up decent here against the Tennessee pass rush. Tennessee works a lot of twist in the course of this game. They do a good job, however, of pushing the pocket right down the middle. I think where Ole Miss is going to have a lot of success in their pass rush this week is going to be on the perimeter. I think their speed off the edge, particularly attacking the left tackle of Mississippi State, is going to be effective. He does not, in my opinion, always handle the speed rush very well based on the games that I have watched. Okay. So now you're a little bit later in the game. They're going to come back. Now they're back into the 4 wide again. Everybody is wide. So they're going to work that same deep choice concept that we just looked at, but they're actually going to switch responsibilities now. So if I'm doing it to an outside receiver, the inside guy's got the bender, the occupy route, and the outside guy has the choice concept. Now they're going to switch it. So now the outside guy is going to come in. He's the bender. And the inside guy is going to come out, and he's got the same read variance that the outside guy would normally have. Okay, again, they've split the field in half, and they actually have gotten in this empty alignment here, all right, to try and stress the defense a little bit. They're going to use it to chip this defensive end most likely. Okay, quarterback is going to find the math. He's going to pick numbers. Pre-snap, numbers probably going to end up being 3/3, which is exactly what happens. Okay, he sees this linebacker drop out underneath. The linebacker goes to get underneath this bender. He doesn't want to give this free path into that grass. Safety's got to protect the inside breaking route. So now they've created a one-on-one situation with this corner. The corner is deep, so the receiver's going to put the brakes on, shut it down, and it turns into this little comeback. Okay, right, and you try to teach your receiver to work right back down his stem. You'd prefer that ball to be thrown here. and for him to come right back down into it, he almost leaves this ball too far inside. And again, this is a secondary that has seen this route concept a million times out of their own offense, and this kid almost makes the play. Absolutely almost makes the play, but it's thrown in rhythm, and they're able to convert for a first down right there. Couple plays later, they're going to present the exact same way. Again, we're going to stress the defense horizontally with formation. We're going to stretch them both vertically and horizontally by scheme. Here they get a light box. Tennessee goes ahead. They give them a 5-man box. They are going to run the ball right here with the traditional counter screen. Okay, quarterback will run the ball. They do not want him necessarily to run the ball. Okay, and if you give them a light box, they have the ability to execute just like they do here, and it turns into a nice 8-yard gain on first down. The interesting thing for an Ole Miss fan is going to be, how does Ole Miss choose to approach the box against this Mississippi State offense? Do they have so much confidence in their front four and in one linebacker or two linebackers, with one kind of being on the fringe of the box? Do they trust them to handle the run, or do they feel that they need the presence on the back end? They need presence out wide, and they lighten that box load. I think you're going to see a combination of both. I think that when you see Ole Miss present as a similar box count as you do here with 5 defenders, I would put very good money on there being some type of movement or twist, whether it be on the inside or the outside of the defense. And they're going to do that again to try to clog those running lanes, keep the linebacker free so that he can scrape and be effective in the fit. Okay. Here they are again, wide formations. The math, again, it's what it remains to be about. Right now, he sees 5 defenders in the box. He is going to work his RPO game. If this defender were to move out, he's going to hand this ball off. Pre-snap, if he feels this safety coming down, okay, then he is going to look to throw this football. Same thing if this linebacker, instead of number 7, instead of working out, sits or works in, he is probably going to throw behind him with the football. So there he is in the mesh. Eyes are on 7. Okay, 7 is a little bit tight to the box. Tennessee has actually taken the other backer and gotten him into an immediate deal right here. He should have handed this ball off. They tricked the eyes, but the hitch is uncovered. It's almost a miss right there, and potentially could have been a pick 6 to number 3 if that ball continues to sail. Receiver kind of bails him out with a nice catch right there, okay, or at least batting it down. But you can see if he hands this ball off, it's potentially a big game for the running back. Okay, so Ole Miss has to do some things to try and get his eyes, try to confuse him in this run RPO game. The very next play in the game, similar formation structure. Mississippi State is going to come back. Same type deal now. They're going to RPO this time off of a wide zone instead of an inside zone. You do the math. 4 down linemen, 2 backers. He knows right now I've got to hand this ball, or I've got to throw this ball. I can't hand it off. Okay. Safety's cheated to the middle of the field. I've got 2 over 2. He likes that side, so he's going to take it right there. He's going to pull it. Okay. And he ends up throwing the interception. They do a nice job right here of playing man-to-man and maintaining their leverage. Now, this ball should have gone to the outside. Corner bails off. They're playing man on the slot right there, little Rip Liz match concept. Okay, he's got to put that ball outside, and if he throws the ball outside, it's probably a first down for Mississippi State. Because they play man on the slot right here, and the slot plays it so well, it ends up being an interception that sets Tennessee up deep in the red zone.
He was worried about that pass rush right there too, Pete. If you watch,
he's worried about he's worried about the rush. He feels the pressure right there. They get the nice stunt right there. They stun inside. I think he feels it. He gets it out. So the kid, he's far from
right before the snap. If you go back a little bit, right before the snap, when I can't read his number here. He's lined up outside right there. He's coming in
19 down here at the bottom.
Yeah, when he comes in, that you can almost tell from his body language that he was aware of him. He's like, okay, he's coming. I got to get rid of it, and he throws it right into the traffic.
He knows right now. I don't have the numbers. I got to get this ball out of my hands, and he does. You know, The kid is talented. He is going to make good plays. He has the ability to make good plays. I'm going to show you some here in a minute, but he's not flawless. And this is a great example right here. Next year in this same system, that ball goes outside to the outside receiver and it's a first down and everything's moving on. Here, obviously, he kind of gets set up, forces the ball into a deal. Now, this is the reason you like that kid. This is the reason you like the future for this young man in this offense with Jeff Lebby. They're going to work that same DC, that deep choice concept to the field. So ball is on the right hash, and I want you to watch the throw right here. So it's supposed to be a play action, and the running back comes off to take protection. So the quarterback ends up faking on air, and fans go, "What's he doing? That's dumb." Well, no, it's the running back adjusting to the hot. It's the running back knowing what's going on in protection. Quarterback is going through the mechanism just like he's supposed to. He's showing the play action right there. So they're running that same switch concept that we looked at earlier. So now the outside receiver is coming in, is going to run the bender. Inside receiver is coming right off his butt, and he is going to work the choice. Okay. So that slot receiver comes through, and now the quarterback knows all I got to do is read that corner up top to the field. The corner bails, so the outside receiver should shut it down. He's kind of late to do it, but this is a long throw from the young quarterback from Mississippi State.
Sure is.
And it is a long throw with pace and a long throw with accuracy because the play action helps. The running back does a great job in protection. They actually only rush 4, and one side of the pressure kind of gets clogged up a little bit. But he does a nice job. Clean pocket, steps into it. Again, long, accurate throw. That's the throw you want to force. If you're Ole Miss or you're any defense, you force that throw, right? You protect the middle of the field. You don't give him anything to the short side. You try to force him to make that throw all the way out to the field. But if you give him time, he has shown the ability, particularly versus zone coverage, to be able to make those throws when you give him opportunity in the pocket. Okay. This goes back to box count, right? Play the math game. You have 2 high safeties here. You're showing a 5-man box. They're looking like they're about to play some type of man-to-man or match coverage on the outside right here. He sees no late safety rotation. He hands the ball off. He makes the right decision right here. The stunt, and that's what we talked about. If Ole Miss is going to present, if Pete Golding is going to show him this box and force them to run the ball, they are going to counter it with some type of movement up front to try and make it cloudy and expect late help from the secondary. If you get good secondary support, much like you see right here, and you can limit the run game and you force them out of where they want to be offensively. But you've got to be sound on your back end to be able to provide that secondary support when the ball spills outside. So playing games with the quarterback, giving him different presentations, both from a structure standpoint in the box and a structure, on the back end is important. Okay. Wanted to show this one because in this game and in the other game that I watched, they go to this concept a ton in when they get into long down and distance situations, and they dress it up a ton of different ways. It is a version of Y cross, which is a staple in the Ole Miss offense. They're going to, with this reduced split, he's actually going to come and he's going to convert this out or corner route, and they're trying to manipulate and draw this safety out of the picture. He is going to work the cross route. He's going to push vertical and work the cross here. He's going to come up and find a way to pull and expand the window, and then they're going to have a dig or a post back side. They go to this concept multiple times in long down and distance situations. I think they are comfortable with him throwing this ball. His eyes start left. He knows it's not there, but he's trying to hold the safety, trying to influence the backer, open up the middle of the field like he does. He is on rhythm with this football. If he is any later with this football, the Tennessee safety probably picks this off, okay? But he does a nice job being on rhythm with his feet, on rhythm with his eyes, feels the pressure, steps up, stays fast, doesn't allow the pressure to slow down his timing, and he drives that ball down the field into the window to convert for a big play on a 3rd and 7. Okay. Comes back again. Now let's get moving. First down, they lose a yard. Now we're 2nd down. Okay. And they're going to get back into their RPO game. They've got a tight end, 2 receivers stacked to the short side of the field. If you isolate and give them a matchup they want to the wide side, they are going to take it. Okay. Here, Tennessee is going to match 6 with 6. And again, it's just what's my RPO count? If you stay 6 on 6 and they can get hat on the hat, and this is where Florida found success against Ole Miss on Saturday. Florida was actually able to find the B-gap bubble. They were able, and I'm going to go to the end zone copy here. They shift. They're going to get into it from the shift. Here we go. Florida was able to find the bubble, and they used motion a lot of times to get there, but they were able to find this 3-man triangle with the open B gap. Okay, so now that meant they could go solo here. It gave them an easy combo up now, and they were often putting their sniffer backside on this linebacker in that Florida game. Sometimes he actually ended up front side here, which let them be thick on the double team with late to the backside backer. And again, now it's about the math. It's math and angles, right? Here, easy read for the quarterback. Tennessee shows no threat of adding a 7th defender that can make the play, and there they are with an effective run on a 2nd and 11. All right. Talked about the quarterback. They don't love to use him as a runner, but he is effective if you do not get him down. Here, Tennessee tries to kind of disguise the look. They're playing just a straight-up cover 1, man-to-man look. They add a pressure late. They leave nobody in the middle. He does a good job of getting out of it. And again, he gets him down and just converts and gets himself on the ground and lives to play the next play. Okay. He knows where he wants to go with this ball. He doesn't get it. They don't win the matchup on the outside, which is a bit of a problem for them. But he's able to tuck it, pull it, go get what he wants. So you got to do a good job securing the box, okay? Another big thing you're going to see out of this offense, again, you see it from Ole Miss, you see it from a lot of teams. They're going to spread you out wide, and then they're going to bring that tight end in to create an advantageous run box. Tennessee is presenting pre-snap with essentially 5. When you bring the tight end in, who adds? Does he add to the box? Does he add to the box? If only one of those dudes adds to the box, the numbers still equate for you to be able to run the football. One of them adds on here. They actually miss him in the pass blocking, but the math works out. It is 6 on 6. One backer, and this is what you're not going to see this from Ole Miss, is one backer, especially into the boundary in this game, was dropping fast as soon as the ball was snapped, and they weren't replacing him with a D-line stunt. So here it almost doesn't make sense, and I'm just going to skip to the end zone. Okay, when the motion happens, you are going to see number 7 is going to pop out right now. I hit the wrong button. 7 is going to pop out and get into the pass, even though he should be part of the run fit, and there's nothing action-wise from the D-line to get someone into the gap to replace him. Typically, if you're going to pop him out, you are going to close a gap and either leave him with late B responsibility or even cross-face twice so that the ball spills out to him. Tennessee does not do that. They bring the pressure here, but he is only an A-gap player, so nobody gets to the front side A, and the ball just spits right down the field. So they're going to make you play the game of, how are you going to present? What numbers are you going to give us? And then Jeff Lebby and his quarterback are going to try to attack you in that fashion. Here's just another example of Y-cross from the wide splits. They're going to try to make it look like a screen down here to the boundary with one guy releasing, okay, from the field. They're tight, so he's actually going to outside release and try to create a little rub into the dig route, and I believe he is going to come first and get into this shallow route. That's the way a lot of teams do it when they're compressed and condensed like that. Okay, so here he's going to start eyes down here to the bottom. Okay, if it's 2 over 2 and one guy triggers or the safety triggers and you can get behind him, you're throwing that ball. If not, you're working backside to your cross. Okay, there he is in the play action right there. He sees the backer drop out right now. He knows I am outnumbered down here to the bottom, so he is getting his eyes right now to the middle of the field. There's another dot in space, well-timed, crowded pocket. But watch the quarterback, and I'm going to go to the end zone copy. What he does a really nice job of, and where I am impressed with the young player, is his feet don't get too far off right here. He's balanced. He feels the pressure. He's going to step up, and he's going to reclaim his balance. He's not going to let him throw him off. Got a nice natural whip to the arm and a nice accurate ball down the field. Okay. Now, I told you I think speed rush is where Ole Miss is going to be able to attack in the perimeter. And when you set up speed rush effectively throughout the course of the game, and I don't believe 51 started this game at left tackle. I think he's come in, whether it's due to injury or performance at this point. But when you set up the speed rush and you start to get this deep vertical set, you open up inside moves and bull rushes like you see right here. And that is where Ole Miss's edge players should be able to be really successful. If they can get those. Yeah, listen, if he doesn't get help from 75, the guard, the quarterback's toast. 75 is able to turn out and give him help, but if you're Ole Miss, the hope is if 75 is turning out to help, that now means that Walter Nolan or Pegues or Harris or one of those other inside guys has created the one-on-one, because 51 here is absolutely on skates.
Oh, brutal.
Absolutely.
It's not even me on the film, and I'm like, Coach, can we move on? Coach, please move on.
Yeah. Coach, please. All right, last one I'm going to show you here.
Sorry, I saw it.
Just a simple RPO right here. Again, it's all about the numbers, right? Where's my seventh defender coming from? Safety comes down. He's going to get his feet on platform again. Another nice throw against the glance route right here. The receiver is able to hold on to it right here. So they do a nice job. Boom, protected up. See it right there. He gets it out of his hand. So Ole Miss, I believe, is they're going to show different coverages on the outside, but Ole Miss is going to challenge their outside receivers with some man-to-man coverage. I think you're going to see Ole Miss try to bracket their slot some. I do think you're going to see a little bit more zone where maybe you match up the inside, you play softer on the outside, close the middle of the field. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how Pete Golding plans to kind of mask some of what he wants to do, and how I almost think that to some degree he is going to try and make them predictable. And I honestly think to some degree they tried to do that last week. I think they tried to take RPOs out of the equation, and they wanted to present them with the run box, and they believed in the core of the defense and being able to stop the run without a ton of support and try to limit explosives on the perimeter. And I think you'll see a lot of the same approach, and it's just going to be about the ability of those Ole Miss box players to handle that. And if they can, then Ole Miss, I think, can get Mississippi State into some long down and distance situations, and that's where you're going to thrive against this offense.
Yeah, it's such an interesting week because it was going to be this coronation celebration. I mean, they were going to be hosting. It was going to be a giant party, and that's out the window. And how you produce an energy that's similar to what you would have had. And look, sometimes senior day takes care of itself. By the time people finish with that, everybody's like, "Hey, let's go do this for each other one more time," right? And that happens a lot. I think that's probably what will happen. It's interesting, the juxtaposition of what I think everyone expected Friday to be to what Friday is going to be
versus what it's going to be. Absolutely.
And so you have the massive point spread that I look at it and go, well, Ole Miss is clearly 26 points better than Mississippi State. It's just, can you go? And I don't know the answer to that. And State, and State stopped going here recently. I mean, they did not play well against Arkansas. They did not play well against Missouri. I mean, they had some moments earlier in the year, but those moments have become fewer and further between.
Their box scores are so weird. I mean, yeah, like I went and looked at every box score, and it's like there's some games where they're playing really well early, and then the wheels fall off. And then there's some games where they do just enough to keep it from getting ugly, and then late they find a way to make it maybe a little closer than it actually was. And so it's almost the box score is a hard read for some of their games. But yeah, hopefully Ole Miss can get off to a hot start, and it'll roll from there.
I mean, they're last in rush defense. They're next to last in pass defense. Only Arkansas is worse. Whereas I think total defense was back before this. It was bad. I'm just kind of looking at it. Yeah, total offense yards. Ole Miss is first. Mississippi State's like 10th. Total defense. I don't know. Pass efficiency defense. Mississippi State's last. Like six.
Yeah, they're
significant.
Ole Miss is going to try to attack their safeties. And I mean, Ole Miss, they attack you everywhere. Period. But Ole Miss is if they protect the quarterback at all, they should be fine in the passing game, based on what I've seen and what the numbers say about Mississippi State.
Well, Pete, I really appreciate it. Real quick before we say bye, I'll tell you, we've been brought to you again by Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James. Appreciate those guys all season long. They've been great to do this, and appreciate those of you who have reached out to them. And don't forget, you should still have plenty of time to reach out to them. It's the end of the year, people getting their taxes together, people starting to look at retirement plans, people starting to talk about, hey, what does a new administration mean for my portfolio? All of those things. Those are all valid questions, and you can get answers by getting in touch with Ryan Geary and the people at Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James at 601-368-2215 or ryan.geary@raymondjames.com. I don't know when we'll be back. We'll be back for at least one more game. Ole Miss is going bowling at worst. Maybe Christmas will come early for the Rebels over the course of the weekend, and they'll slip into a playoff game. Doesn't seem likely, but it is possible. But either way, we'll be back with another preview the next time the Rebels take the field after this one. Pete, good luck to you guys on Friday. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Again, thank you to all the sponsors that make this possible. I enjoy doing it. I know I hear from a lot of people that enjoy the product. I'm happy to be a part of it, thankful to be a part of it. And, hopefully Ole Miss can get the win this week, and hopefully everybody has a fantastic Thanksgiving. Hope you get to spend some time with family, and hopefully everybody can kind of reset and relax a little bit. It's always a good time of year for that.
Absolutely. For Pete Deweese, I'm Neil McCready. That does it for this edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview, presented by Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors. Until next time, take care.